Welcome everyone to this celebration of the statewide recognition and ongoing work of My Meadville in the community. I'm Deb Lehman. I've been a part of the team since the beginning of the project and would like to take a few minutes now to recap My Meadville. In 2015, Mary Spicer recognized the opportunity of the Community Heart and Soul Project for the Meadville community. She applied for and received a grant through the Pennsylvania Humanities Council to operate the Heart and Soul program in Meadville. The project commenced in 2016 based on the Heart and Soul guiding principles: involve everyone, focus on what matters most, and play the long game. After the project launched, the program entered a transitional phase, rebranding as My Meadville. Dave Anderson, who will speak later, served as the transitional project coordinator until the hiring of Autumn Vogel as the permanent part-time program coordinator in early 2017. In order to involve everyone, the team focused on gathering data from a broad range of community members. We took part in many community events like Second Saturday and Winterfest. The team hosted events as well, such as community picnics in a variety of neighborhoods. The object was to collect data, thin data, answers to brief questions like, what do you love about Meadville? And thick data collected by conducting in-depth interviews with individuals and small groups, for instance, childcare staff. To focus on what matters most, all the data and interviews were processed by Stephanie Martin and her team of Allegheny College students. Themes emerged. Individual data points were organized around broad topics. At a large community potluck, teams of community members discerned the most salient ideas that resonated through the raw data. These themes were then boiled down to the value statements displayed on the beautiful poster I think many of you have. Now, My Meadville is in the play the long game phase. The value statements developed by the Community Heart and Soul process are available to guide and inform decision-making on all levels of government and society. Together, we can use these values to build a better community for everyone. Now I'd like to introduce John Hartnett, Recovery Service Navigator and team member, who will speak about the role of recovery in the Meadville community.
Hello, I'm John Hartnett, and I'm a drug addict. Or in kinder, less pejorative, and more clinically relevant terms, I'm a person in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder. I'm also the Recovery Service Navigator at Meadville Medical Center. My primary focus is helping persons with substance use disorders and their families navigate the treatment process for this complex disease. Substance use disorders affect individuals and families on so many levels: mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, on and on. As such, I'm very familiar with the supports and services available in our community. I like to describe my work as helping people however they'll let me. Check out my website, letstalkhelps.com, to find local resources and reach out if anything is troubling you. In reflecting on the My Meadville Community Action Plan, my role at Meadville Medical Center speaks to the Established Recovery Peer Leaders Action Item. In our community, there are many leaders in recovery, from substance use disorders, mental health, grief, and more. Also, Crawford County Drug and Alcohol has a number of certified recovery specialists that can support you on your journey to recovery. Go to my website to connect with them or other supports, or call me at 814-333-3916. I'd be happy to talk anytime. Reflecting on the core values of My Meadville, they've really become central to my work and my life. Include everyone, play the long game, and focus on what matters. Include everyone. Everyone in our community is valuable, and it works out exactly the way it does by leveraging our unique talents, ideas, and skills. The wider the base, the higher the point of freedom. The more people we can include, the further we can reach together. Play the long game. There are many moments that are rough. Indeed, this last year has been rough, and we are very much still in the middle of a pandemic. While wearing masks and social distancing is getting old, it is easy to get complacent. We need to still work together to keep each other safe. Talk to your doctor about whether the COVID vaccination is right for you. But this strange season will pass eventually, and soon we will be back together building community. Focus on what matters. What really matters is you, and you. All of us matter. It's important to take care of ourselves and each other. What really matters are all the people that live, work, pray, and play in Meadville. Let's get out there and be kind to ourselves and each other. Thanks so much for letting me share. See you on the town.
Hello, Meadville. I was just thinking about what a wonderful, long, strange journey it has been. From the first time you all heard about Heart and Soul way back in Latrobe in 2015 till probably the last time I was able to be with you guys, which would have been, let's see, probably 2019. Oh, what an amazing, wonderful, talented, creative group of individuals you all are. And I am so lucky that you guys for a time were in my life and you have left a mark on my heart. So from the trainings to the summits to the adult beverages we shared for some of you afterwards, what wonderful memories I have of working with you all in Meadville. And I have to tell you that so many of your Meadville success stories are now stories that we use to inspire other communities across the country. Hype, or what I loved, nicknamed the 10K coffee shop, and so many others. Congratulations, you all, for completing Heart and Soul and for making your community that much better. And thank you all so much for all of the joy that you have given me for these past 4 or 5 years. Thank you so much, and I hope you all stay in touch.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Scaninero. I'm a resident of Meadville since 2011 and a member of the My Meadville leadership team. I was able to participate in a lot of pretty amazing opportunities due to My Meadville, like the one-on-one interviews, which was one of my favorite things. Just to be able to connect with people and hear about their hopes and visions for Meadville. Now, in 2018, I was able to connect with Amara Geffen of the Art and Environment Initiative. Many of you probably know her from her work constructing the beautiful PennDOT mural, or more recently, the beautiful flowers downtown on the Snodgrass building. This project started as a simple idea of beautifying an ugly wall, but under Amara's leadership, it has grown into a multi-year green space project in partnership of the ARC of Crawford County. From children drawing sketches at Second Saturday to working with a diverse team of emerging and veteran artists to solidify the design, to installing the mural on a beautiful summer day, I wanted to know from Amara how it is that a community member with a vision can actually accomplish what they want to see happen in our community. We'll listen to this conversation, followed by a short video showing the installation of the newly named Snodgrass Relief mural. Here's Amara Geffen.
On a theoretical level, in order to make the intention of the heart and soul process take form and root and grow in a community, you got to have engagement. And you also have to couple that in a way that people understand how to target their engagement, right? We all live in this community and we have visions and hopes for this community, and we see the potential of it. We want to nurture it into being this wonderful, beautiful place. And in order to make that happen, on a theoretical level, we all have to understand how things get done in communities. How does the work of communities actually happen? We all can have vision, but you have to understand something about how to make things happen and how to get people to come together, and ideally how to do it without pissing people off, because we're all so sensitive, you know, that we do get our buttons pushed, and then we can, you know, what we see happening politically, right? We end up factionalized and working against each other, against efforts, instead of what's the common goal here and how can we, you know, how can we use excellence? And unity is part of excellence, right? And unity is a key principle of design, unity and variety. You got to have that balance, right? I think that with My Meadville, all of this work takes a lot of trust and mutual respect. And it takes time to listen, to hear each other. I mean, Lee, how long ago was it that you and I stood in that spot and I said, you know, if you put a mural up on this building, the other ones are going to look like crap.
Yeah.
You know, and there's this little rubbly pocket between the theater and the Meadville Club that, you know, that little space could get cleaned up and something could happen. And, you know, that was like 2018. Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you know, if you allow things the time that is needed for an idea to gestate and to find its connection to all of the other initiatives and goals, you know, I mean, you know, things begin to work. I mean, we didn't get the DCNR grant because I have some fantastic vision. We got the DCNR grant because this project anchors to city goals, to county goals, to Economic Progress Alliance goals, you know, a whole series of goals that are going to take 20 years, I mean, or more still. They've been in the works for that long already, because the vision is simple on a certain level. It's to build connections between communities and to make communities thrive, to have equity in housing and employment and, you know, racial justice, in diversity. I mean, we even if we don't all language it in that exact way, we want harmonious, healthy communities to live in that are thriving, right? That aren't dying. So the goal, you know, and then there's like many, many ways that you can make that happen. And the success comes in elevating every voice. And I know that sounds really Pollyanna because there's a lot of voices we've heard of late that I certainly don't want to elevate, right? And so that's where we get in a tussle. And the only way out of that tussle is through one of the things that is core to the heart and soul process, which is stories, sharing stories and engaging in dialogic processes and deep listening and meeting face to face and getting beyond unexamined biases, but getting into the real process of being in community with people, not on the abstract theoretical level, but in the down and dirty, either sitting on a Zoom, if that's all we can do, right? Or sitting across a table having coffee, right?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, about how I think we're disconnected when our relationships are shallow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we don't have time to actually exchange and listen, and hear and share. Yeah.
Well,
that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it's a lofty goal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to be done to get there on the grand scheme. So you work with the low-hanging fruit. You work with what you can do right now. And every step of that takes you closer to that bigger thing. I gotta believe that. I mean, otherwise, you have to have hope. You have to have hope.
Vogel. I served as the My Meadville project coordinator through 2017 and 2018. Some of my favorite moments from the My Meadville Community Heart and Soul Initiative happened in the fall of 2018, especially when we brought over 300 people together in Diamond Park for the world's largest potluck in Meadville. I very much loved bringing people, old and new, together to eat food and celebrate the good work that had been done. And I loved having to run to Pizza Villa for free pizzas every 10 minutes to keep people fed and happy at this large potluck. It was a lot of fun. Also in that fall, we were awarded the Pennsylvania State Planning Award for Best Planning Process in the state, which was really exciting and gave way to what you'll hear about next. Gary Johnson, the Assistant City Manager, is going to share with you the kind of proposed zoning ordinance that is built off of what people shared, what people love about their neighborhoods, and the kind of neighborhood character and preservation they want to see, all coming out of the My Meadville project. So a huge thanks to everyone that was part of this work. And here's Gary Johnson.
Hello, My Meadville. This is Gary Johnson, Assistant City Manager and Zoning Administrator with the city. I'm here to talk to you about the city's zoning and comp plan update. We've been working on this for a little bit here. On the screen today, you can see right now, you can see on the right there is the proposed zoning map update that was gone to council. So I just want to get a little bit of background here on how we got here. In 1994 was the last zoning ordinance update. That was the last major revision to the ordinance. Last several years, the Planning Commission, the City Planning Commission, has been working on some updates to that zoning ordinance. In 2016, of course, the My Meadville planning effort began and resulted in the 2018 Community Action Plan. That plan won the 2018 statewide planning award, and that prompted the state to reach out to the city to see how they could help us in incorporating some of the My Meadville recommendations into the zoning ordinance and comp plan. That effort resulted in a grant from the state, combined with some cash from the city and in help from the college and the county to put together this zoning ordinance and comp plan update. So in 2018, the City Planning Commission began to lead the effort using environmental planning and design consultants out of Pittsburgh on this update. And in the last 2 years, they've worked on that with help from My Meadville and the county. And just this January, voted to send to City Council the final draft of the zoning ordinance update. So I want to take a step back real quick on and talk a little bit about what zoning actually is. And at its essence, it's a division of a community into districts in which the standards for use and bulk regulations apply. And that means, you know, how big are buildings, what are the setbacks to the buildings, how are parking provided, gets into lighting, signage, all those things. And you can see there in that second bullet point, under state law that authorizes the city to do zoning, we can regulate any of those elements there. Just with the caveat there that any regulations under the zoning must relate back to promoting and protecting public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. So that's a basic idea of what zoning is. If you do look at the zoning ordinance update, it is about 180 pages, but as you look through it, you'll see some terms there, and I wanted to go over some of them very briefly. The first three you'll see in the ordinance itself. I'm not going to go over those in too much detail, but those are basic uses and basic processes by which uses and buildings are permitted. The last three are really more related to the new type of zoning that is proposed to take effect in the city, and it's called form-based zoning as opposed to traditional zoning. And the form-based is really focused more on structures than the uses in those structures, the uses of the land. And those last two elements there, the two definitions, street typology and building typology, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that in just a minute. But those really are related more to the form-based zoning that we're shifting toward in some parts of the city. So as I talked about, traditional zoning is really what people think about with districts and segregation of uses. And the form-based, again, has to do with more with structures and how land how buildings are built, how they're sited on a property. So my Meadville effort found that a lot of city residents like their neighborhoods. They don't really want them to change from a feel standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, if you will. And so that's why the decision was made to shift in some respects to a form-based standards as opposed to the traditional use segregation model. So the next slide is going to show how that works in some places. Now, form-based on the left, traditional on the right. These are a selection of how zoning in those different methods works. So, for example, with form-based zoning, the standards regulate the building typology, what it looks like. For example, under this proposed ordinance, a single-family dwelling would need to have essentially a sloped roof, horizontal siding, and be similar in size and mass to the neighboring homes. Under traditional zoning, building standards really related more to regulating height or the size of a building. The second there, you'll see standards regulating would regulate new building access and orientation. So it would say this is where the driveway would need to be, and this is what way the building needs to face. For example, buildings on a corner lot must face the busier street. The front door or the front of the house must face the busier street, and access to that property would be restricted to the side street for safety reasons. So you have less traffic. It should be safer to get onto that property from a side street. Under traditional zoning, the access regulations really just have to do with limiting the width of a driveway and the distances of those driveways from intersections, again, for traffic safety. That third bullet point, under the form base, the standards are regulated standards for setbacks for buildings, essentially the distances they must be from property lines are regulated more based on the existing building setbacks in the neighborhood so that you don't have a wide variance in distances of houses from the street or the sidewalk to try to preserve that feel. In traditional zoning, setbacks are really based on the zoning district. So in an R1 single-family residential district today, houses have to be at least 25 feet from the front property line. Doesn't matter what the other houses on the street might be sited at. And then that fourth bullet point, you'll see the form-based zoning would allow neighborhood scale service businesses such as laundries, greengrocers, community centers, et cetera, in a residential area, in some of the residential areas, not all of them, but it would permit that. And under traditional zoning, uses really are more strictly segregated, as I indicated before, such as residential, commercial, and industrial. So under the proposed form-based zoning, it would permit more of a mixed-use feel, and you'll see that in the ordinance itself. This is a section of the city, the central portion of the city. You'll see in the upper left is 5th Ward. In the upper right is more the Allegheny College area. But all of those colored areas, MU1, MU2, MU3, DPH, and GBM, those are all the mixed-use districts where the form-based zoning would essentially take effect. The other areas are institutional, industrial, and single-family residential, and those, while there will be changes, there will be less mixed use in those other districts. And this does not include all of the city. The north end of the city is not included, as is some of the eastern part of the city, which would not be holistically affected by the change in the zoning ordinance. So for example, I mentioned the mixed use. So an MU1 means mixed use 1 district, and that's just the designation of the district, but it illustrates in this permitted use table, this shows what uses would be permitted in that district, okay? You'll see a bakery, barber salon, you'll see multifamily dwelling, single family dwelling, a whole range of different types of uses in this MU1 district. And you'll see there next to the right, in the right column of each of those, you'll see a letter or letters. So you'll see P or SE or C. Those relate back to the few slides before where you have a permitted use, a special exception use, or a conditional use. So that's what those letters mean. And you'll see again in the previous slide talks about how those individual uses are handled and what way they're handled. But this just really shows how the mixed uses would be governed in the MU1 district, which is just a sample for how it might work in the ordinance. One other mention I wanted to note that for people who might be concerned about how those commercial enterprises might affect otherwise residential neighborhoods, all commercial uses in a neighborhood area, such as again the MU1 or the MU2, those would all have to, those are all governed by these 5 standards here. No matter what type of use it is, they would all be governed by these 5 that have to do with hours of operation, exhaust and ventilation, off-street parking, outdoor storage, and lighting. So that would be that would govern any type of use that might go into any type of commercial use that might go into an otherwise residential area. So just that helps to protect the existing houses or residential uses from those incoming small commercial uses. One of the other main items, one recommendations coming out of My Meadville is they would like to see more allowance for urban agriculture and community gardens, which is currently not really permitted under the zoning ordinance. And so under the proposed zoning ordinance, this would allow community gardens permitted in just about all the districts, and urban agricultural separately defined and regulated would be permitted also in several districts with limits on hours of operation, size limitations, some other things like that. Would also allow some seasonal farm stands at those at those locations to allow the community gardens and urban agriculture to take root, if you will. The other section of that, I just thought that was the zoning ordinance, and kind of quick and dirty. The other element of this effort, of course, was the comprehensive plan amendment. Last actual comprehensive plan of the city was completed in 2013. And what a comprehensive plan is, it's really a vision for the community. Has everything to do from land use to transportation to housing to where community facilities should be, infrastructure should be. And My Meadville really served as an update to that 2013 plan. And that's why we wanted to incorporate some select provisions of the My Meadville Community Action Plan into the city's comprehensive plan. And so some of those initiatives, they'll follow in the next slide, are some of the ones that are recommended to go into the city comprehensive plan. Not all of the My Meadville recommendations would, because some just aren't, they're better focused on being implemented by maybe social groups or other agencies that would be have better capacity to do so than the city itself. And so these are the initiatives for My Meadville that are proposed to be incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan. Some of them, you'll see the second bullet there is the change to the zoning ordinance that prevents urban agriculture, which is of course underway. There's a map of public parks down below. So some of these efforts have already begun or been accomplished in the time since the CAP was completed, but we do want to include those into the city's comprehensive plan. So moving forward now, this has been recommended to council. Council now has it in front of them and they're reviewing it, but there will be a comprehensive outreach program. We're thinking probably in the summer when the pandemic dies down. That's a bad choice of words, but as the pandemic winds down and vaccinations ramp up, hopefully to have some in-person workshops, maybe in the neighborhoods, or maybe neighborhood specific, to allow people to really see how this might impact their neighborhoods themselves and get a better feel and be more comfortable with what's going on. The zoning ordinance draft is in no way, of course, final. Council has the final say on what it will be, and it may change in certain respects. All that said, we hope to have adoption of the zoning ordinance and the comp plan update in fall to late 2021 this year. So hopefully that's the plan that we have, and we hopefully it'll work, barring any seriously unforeseen circumstances, which I would, of course, would not dismiss. So any questions you might have? I am again Gary Johnson. That's my contact information there on the screen. You can call, text anytime. You can write me with snail mail too. We open those envelopes as well. So anytime, any questions you might have, feel free to at any time to get a hold of me, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. With that said, I thank you for listening, and welcome any comment or concerns you have. Have a good night.
Hi, I'm Dan Hunter, and I was asked to write and share a poem tonight, but I had to write a story. It's called Dreamt Food. It began with a need to fill an emptiness inside, a need for community, for a place to belong, and grew into something bigger than ourselves. We filled our hearts by filling spaces that appeared as empty as we had felt. But under the concrete, covered with asphalt, was soil that had grown rich with nutrients through the years of being forgotten. In these spaces, we told our stories. Whispers of dreams were seeds of hope caught on the wind's breath, spread wide by any means, even in what the birds left behind in their flighted travels. Through the tiny cracks in the surface, the seeds made their way back to the earth, germinated, then took root, growing in the darkness, forcing their way into the light, breaking the surface, further fracturing the concrete. Even in their infancy, they were healthy. They were robust. In time, they bloomed forth. We picked the fruits they bore. We lovingly washed and prepared them. We brought them to the same table, sharing our bountiful harvest in this once empty place. We feasted. We chewed and swallowed. It followed the natural course of things, digesting, absorbing what's needed, and expelling what's not. I stand in the never the same space, knowing what we have consumed is what people have grown in their own separate lives, their own secret gardens, under cracked pavement, and have brought to the table to share. But what nourishes and sustains us is the sharing of our failures, disasters, blights, and our droughts. Everything we've digested to get to this point, this is what makes it ours. We can rejoice in each other's fruitful seasons, knowing we all have benefited from indiscriminate winds and flocks of irreverent birds. After years of storms washing away, floods that erode the soul, withering the droughts that followed. We remember the scum that grew on the surface of the puddles from which we were forced to drink before the rains returned. This time, a soft, prolonged drizzle in which we shared body and soul, and danced, creating crystal clear springs to quench our thirst and to bring new life to what was there just under the surface. We now cup our hands together to catch the life force and drink what it is we most need to live, each other. Hearing the laughter on sunny days, each quarter or half past the hour, friends reaching out because they are happy and so you are not. Happy to listen, happy to help you find a path back home. Home, where there's someone with a shovel to help you dig your way out when you've gotten down deep. It happens to us all from time to time. We are in fact human. We all flow through our lives as tough and tumble, aggravating and absurd, sweet and carefree. Obviously still stuck in an anti-reality norm in a very independent way. But we make our way home to the place where we live, where ever-growing growth happens. We plant new seeds for the next stronger crop. Community should be both the solid rock upon which we stand and the force that flips the rock over and explores deeply what lies beneath. Plant just one seed to take you there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Anderson. I've been a resident of Meadville since the fall of 1990 when my wife and I moved to town when I got a job here in Meadville. Been a great place to live, great place to raise kids. And I'm looking forward to many more years in Meadville. I originally got involved in the My Meadville project in the spring of 2016 when some friends of mine asked me if I was interested in joining the board of the project or the advisory committee of the project, and I volunteered for that. And not really understanding what the project was going to be about, but I liked the group of people that was doing it and think, well, yeah, this is a group of people I would like to work with. I quickly became a bit of a convert to the Heart and Soul project, or the process. The more I learned about it, the more intriguing it was, and the more value I saw in it. In the goal of including the whole community in deciding or evaluating what the community wants, rather than maybe a small group of the local political leaders or a small group of business people or whoever deciding that some project is good to pursue and then going for it, because it may not necessarily be of value to everybody in the community, or we may be there may be another segment in the community that has a better idea. It's just they, for whatever reason, that project hasn't heard. So I thought that the goal of going out into the community and trying very diligently and in a orderly, in a planned process, trying to get everybody involved and get input from the project was really great. So I was on the board for a while, and then there was some transition, and I was the project coordinator for a couple of months, and the energy in Meadville, there's a lot more energy and a lot more happening in Meadville if you take the time to go out and look for it. Yeah, the second Saturdays, we had some great second Saturdays, a lot of things going on. I can't even remember now the name of the project with the block cuts. Oh my gosh, that was great. The day they were down at second Saturday running a steamroller across big sheets of paper to make block prints was really cool. Going to the Westbury Chicken Barbecue and talking to people about this project, and particularly, Westbury, where it was a much older demographic, and just hearing stories from people who were longtime residents of Meadville and had, maybe gone to high school in the 50s or maybe even the 40s or earlier. So and their views of the town. So I really still do believe that the Heart and Soul project and the process and the My Meadville project, it was a great project with the very good goals of trying to provide some kind of guidance and document for people to move forward with projects in Meadville. This presentation, because it's forced me to go back and look at the final product, which I had never done. And I'm very excited as I read through and see what was the end of something I had a part in helping get it started. So if anybody hasn't read the final plan, I highly recommend you take a look at it. There's a lot of good information there. So anyways, thank you very much.
Okay, well, welcome, Leroy. It's so exciting for us to be presenting for the Pennsylvania Humanities Council to be presenting this plaque to the City of Meadville. You are hereby designated an official Heart and Soul community by PHC. And we just wanted to recognize that Meadville volunteers use the Heart and Soul method to gather stories from residents, especially those voices unheard, and developed a shared set of value statements and an action plan that I know you guys are continuing to implement. Meadville is a shining example of putting people first and planning for a future that involves everyone. So congratulations. We started with you guys in 2015, 2016. You were one of our pilot communities. We're so proud of what the residents, My Meadville, and the city, and all of the officials that have supported this process have been able to do. We know it's been a long journey. It never ends. The engagement process never ends, and the heart and soul of the community, of course, never wanes or never goes away. It's always there in some way, shape, or form. And I know that the city and the folks in My Meadville and the residents are trying to continue that process. We've seen some amazing gains from you guys in terms of some business development, new leaders stepping up. You guys have done some projects and zoning projects that have helped, we're in the mix, but, also really supported by this process. And we really hope that you guys walked away with a renewed sense of, pride in Meadville. It's a great community. So congratulations, Leroy, and to the team and to the residents for this great accomplishment.
Jen, thanks so much. It's an honor to accept this on behalf of especially the volunteers, the ones that work so hard to hear the stories, to put all the data together and come out with a out of the box view of what Meadville can be. And I'm really pleased. I was a part of it in 2000. It seems like a long time ago, 2000. Yeah. But I want to accept this on behalf of the residents of the City of Meadville, Meadville City Council and myself. And especially the volunteers, again, they made this happen. We get to hear what they want to see for the future of the City of Meadville. And sometimes you become stagnant, and it's good to be able to to have the vision to at least go beyond the box and then have the ability to take those changes and to work with them. You certainly can't make everyone happy, but you can make a big difference. And My Meadville's made a big difference in the city of Meadville. It's a tool that our council uses, as you talked about with ordinances and our boards, authorities, and commissions. It gives them a tool to work with. And those who aren't involved in everyday decisions at least have a chance to get their voices heard. And that's what we're elected to do. And the city needs to move forward, and we have to look at changes sometimes. So I'm excited about it, and I'm certainly pleased that I was mayor during this process, and we got to meet and work with a lot of great people. So again, thanks so much. It's an honor for the city of Meadville. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Leroy. And we want to, just say that, to have leadership, especially city leadership or municipal leadership behind this is so important. Before we end the ceremony, I wanted to ask you one question, which is very heart and soul focused. What do you love about the city of Meadville?
I was fortunate. I've been born and raised here. So I get to see a lot of the changes from when I was a child until I became mayor. I just like the community involvement. I call it the bedroom community. We're a close community. When the pandemic happened, our city came together. We worked together. It wasn't always easy. We had to have patience. But what I really like is having the community behind the city, because the city can't survive without its residents. And you can't survive without the residents without listening to what's important to them. So I think that's the thing that I like most of Meadville, is that we have the ability to look beyond the box.
That's great. Well, thank you. That is a great way to end the ceremony. And again, congratulations. You guys will receive this award in person, which you can proudly hang wherever you feel is the right place. And congratulations again to the city of Meadville and to the residents and My Meadville and the city for such great work.
Well, thanks, Jen, for taking the time this morning. And it's a great honor. Thank you.